Hey everyone, I am here to help us with our reading assignment this week. So this is going to begin the read aloud. So we're going to read through it and then we'll go to the questions, and that's the whole assignment. Pretty interesting one this week about doll sheep. So let's get into it. Getting ready. Have you ever been around a small child who seems to want to learn everything? They watch things closely. They might get down on the ground to watch a worm move through the grass. They might watch tiny ants carry food to their anthill. They might sit quietly and watch birds build their nest in a tree. Maybe these are things that you did when you were younger, or that you still do now. Biologists make careful observations of organisms and their environment too. They watch organisms really closely to learn about their behavior. Today, you will read about wildlife biologists who are trying to solve a problem by closely watching the interactions of sheep. So, what has happened to the sheep? In class, you learned that whole populations of organisms have the same survival needs as individuals. If one organism dies, the population can't survive. However, if an entire population begins to change, biologists try to figure out why. Just like you did on your field observation, biologists look for the interactions between organisms and their environment. In this reading, you will learn about the population of organisms called doll sheep. Their population began to decrease, and wildlife biologists who study organisms in the wilderness areas wanted to figure out why. What kind of interactions do you think biologists might look at if they study the population of sheep? Learning about doll sheep. Wildlife biologists noticed a decrease in the population of doll sheep in the early 1990s. They wanted to find out why, so they began careful observations of the sheep. Doll sheep are known for their beautiful horns. Males, rams, have huge curling horns. Females, ewes, have smaller horns. Their horns are made of creatine, which is the same material that makes up your fingernails. But the sheep horns are much heavier. Like your fingernails, they keep growing throughout the sheep's life. The horns grow during the spring and summer and stop growing in the fall and winter. The growth cycle creates a pattern in the rings on the lengths of the horns. The number of rings tells you the age of the sheep. Doll sheep are found in very cold regions of Alaska, the Yukon and Northwest Territories, and British Columbia in Canada. This is an area that is very big, covered by many acres of meadow, hills, and mountains. The map below shows where sheep live. Here's a picture of the map. Doll sheep have the food and shelter they need to for survival. When an area supplies all the things an organism needs to survive, that area is called an organism's habitat. In the meadows, the sheep find grass and plants to eat. On the rugged mountains, they eat moss. And they also have hiding places to protect themselves from organisms that use the sheep as food. Wolves, bears, and eagles eat sheep. Some people in the Braid Mountains eat the sheep too. Other people hunt them as sport. In late May or early June, the young sheep, called lambs, are born. Just before the lambs are born, the ewes look for a place to give birth in the most rugged parts of the mountains. Can you imagine why? The ewes choose places that are especially difficult for predators to find. Ewes give birth to one lamb at a time. Their mothers stay with the lamb in their hiding places until the lambs are strong enough to move. A week after they are born, lambs begin to eat plants, grass, and moss. A problem with the doll sheep population. In the early 1990s, after 2 years of very cold winters, the doll sheep population in one area decreased. There were fewer than half the number of sheep in the Beard Mountains. Mountains are in the western part of the region shown on the map. Wildlife biologists were concerned about the dramatic change. They knew that many things could have an effect on the doll sheep population. What was the result of the wildlife's work? The wildlife biologists began to study the problem by observing the sheep's interactions with the environment and other organisms. Questions they developed were probably similar to ones you developed. For example, biologists asked, what kind of interactions do the sheep have with people? They made observations and gathered data. They saw people hunted sheep for food and horns. Their data helped wildlife managers decide to limit doll sheep hunting season.